I were to walk the path.
There must be something you can do.
I've done all I can. Wilt thou, who art everlasting, send your servant to guide the dead to new life? Anubis, come forth.
You are released. The doors of Earth are open to you. You must begin your journey.
She died a slave. Without treasure, she won't be allowed through the final gate.
What do you offer?
She can't pass into the afterlife.
For you, Lord Anubis, governor of the B'ritISH who is upon his mountain, I have only my smile.
So be it.
Zaya!
The dead don't speak to the living.
2500 BC. But what were they? Now, I mean, obviously there are all sorts of theories on what the pyramids represent, but I, again, you know, a bit of a traditionalist here, consider that they are tombs.
Wilt thou, who art everlasting, send your servant to guide the dead?
However, the term tomb, I think, is absolutely inadequate, because when we think of tombs, we think of something in a churchyard.
Come forth.
You know, it would be more accurate to refer to these structures as ascension machines, basically, because the whole idea was to project the soul or spirit of the pharaoh to the stars itself. And that's what all of the internal architecture, all of the cosmology, all the different ideas about them were focused on this one idea.
The doors of Earth are open to you. You must begin your journey.
So I think this is actually a good term.
Without treasure, she won't be allowed through the final gate.
Now, what about the cosmology? Well, obviously, there are different theories and ideas, many of which you already know. But let's go back to the basics here, because the 4th dynasty pyramids, like those at Giza, do not have any inscriptions inside them. So simply from going inside and looking around, you cannot get an absolute accurate idea of what the death journey was of the ancient Egyptians. Plus also, it may well be that there was a different death journey for the pharaoh than what there was for the common people. And the pyramid texts make it clear that the soul or spirit of the pharaoh on death becomes the god Osiris. Okay, now Osiris was the god of death, but he wasn't just, you know, looking out over the dead. He was the dead god. He was the god that is dead, because of the fact that his evil brother Set tricked him into a box and threw it into the Nile, and he died. And so he represents death in many ways. But basically, in addition to this identification, the pharaoh had to go through a specific cosmic geography to reach the afterlife. And this begins with him or her going to the horizon, the western horizon, and then going underneath the earth in something that was known as the Duat. And what they would then do is go through various trials and tribulations, which is why they would need all these magic spells and sayings to deal with all of the monsters and demons and creatures that they would encounter. And he would then appear at just before dawn on the eastern horizon, and would then rise up into the sky to be greeted by a god named Sa, and also Sa's sister Sopdet. Now these are stars, Orion, and by Sirius. Now these are constellations of the southern sky, essentially, eastern stroke southern sky. And there doesn't seem to be any doubt about this. Archaeo astronomers are quite happy to accept this. However, and this is the big however, the journey does not end there. because what is quite clear from the pyramid texts is that they're directional. They start with the sarcophagus on the western end of the chambers, of which is where they're found in various of the pyramids, in fact nearly all of them, and they're then directional because they tell the journey, the journey to the pharaoh as he's travelling from west towards east, which obviously represents his movement through the Duat. But then, at the end, instead of it ending in the east, they then change and go towards the north. And the final sayings within the pyramid texts relate to, that the pharaoh being pushed into the northern part of the sky. And here is the afterlife to be found. But people will say, well, hold on, this is obviously relating to later pyramids. What about the Great Pyramid and its neighbours? Well, the layout of the Great Pyramid and its neighbours is essentially the same as those from the later period, the 5th and 6th dynasties. The sarcophagus is north-south orientated, it's in the western side, and the directionality is exactly the same. You go to the east and then you turn to the north and go towards the place of the afterlife. And this is something which is quite obviously seen by the fact that the entrances to all of the main pyramids in the Memphis necropolis are towards the north. These entrances are connected with these long passages, which, although we call them descending passages because obviously we're going into them and descending down, are like gun barrels pointing the soul or spirit of the pharaoh towards the north. So where do they go in the north? Well, the last two main translators of the pyramid texts, who is R.O. Faulkner and James P. Allen, both make it clear in their commentaries that the pharaoh is going towards what are known as the indestructible or the imperishable stars. In other words, the stars that revolve around the centre of the sky in the north. So this is the destination of the soul of the pharaoh, not Orion. Okay? Orion is a stepping stone towards the final place of the afterlife, the final land of the dead in ancient Egyptian tradition. So there are other things that are stated about what happens, not just after the mummy is interred within the sarcophagus, but where it goes after that, because the sarcophagus, the coffin, even the sarcophagus chamber itself, all represent the womb of a goddess, and her name is Nut, just N-U-T. Now, she is the sky goddess, but basically it is suggested that the sarcophagus, and let's say the coffin and the chamber itself, are like a representation, like a material form of the cosmic womb of the goddess Nut. Okay? And so, basically, where in the sky is Nut, if she's, supposedly amongst the northern stars? Well, it was in the vicinity of the constellation of Cygnus. Cygnus means swan in Latin. It's a constellation of the swan or the celestial bird. It's seen as a different type of bird in many different countries around the world. And he noticed the fact that that Nut, in her role as the arched sky goddess, naked right over the sky itself, bore a great similarity to the Milky Way as it appears in the northern hemisphere.